Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the weekly comic book roundup, and we're actually doing things a little bit differently than I anticipated last week. Yes, that's the first video of the roundup. Will be posted tonight on Wednesday night, New Comic Book Day, with more than likely also the second and third videos for this week's roundup being posted tomorrow. So, anywho. First off, we got kind of a short video to cover this week's X-Men books, which there were 3. Kicking things off with Ten of Swords, Creation. So, Ten of Swords is the first major X-Men crossover of the Dawn of X era, and it's something that has been steadily built up to in, over the last year. We begin with a quote from Saturnine. "All I see, I own, and I am unsatisfied with the state of things." The issue begins at Del Galore, the last watchtower, Kingdom of Dryador, and Otherworld. Is apparently being besieged by the first horseman, and let's just say the siege is going quite well for the horsemen. The king, referred to as the Cursed King, he has outlived 3 wives, and he's outlived three queens, neither of which bore him a son or any child. Is told he should evacuate. But he says, as he's Cursed King, he will stay at the keep. Passes along a scepter to a squire, and sends the squire to tell Saturnine what has happened. As the squire leaves, Plague fires an arrow at the squire on his pterodactyl steed. Later, he arrives at the Starlight Citadel, and it pretty much just has the following to say. The tower has fallen. Araco has fallen. To which Saturnine realizes she needs the cards. And so, Saturnine attendants go forth and get a boon from a creature. We then get a slight write-up on the Starlight Citadel, kind of explaining what its deal is. It connects to all realities, and so it is heavily guarded. It used to be that there was a Captain Britain Corps, and every reality had its own Captain Britain, but the Captain Britain Corps has since fallen, and now Saturnine, Omniversal Majestrix, and High Priestess of the Starlight Citadel is taking up permanent residence within the Citadel. Sealed it off to anyone but her priestesses in an act of desperate defense. Kept the Citadel safe during attacks by the Witchborg of the Fae, however, so that's got something of a plus. Known defenses are the highly trained priestesses of the White, bow-wielding assassins with long-distance aim and high-speed flight. As for siege fortifications and other defenses, that's not currently known. It is currently, and finally, the Starlight Citadel is easiest reached from Krakoa by way of the external gates. And so, Saturnine gets the cards she needs, and she prepares to do a tarot reading. The first card she draws, Judgment. Show the cards as they. The death of death and the new way forward. The Witchbreed bring back their own dead now. Have they considered what else from the past awakens in the earth? What rises to face those who call themselves immortal? Next we have the Four of Wands. And you can see it clearly represent the horsemen. The first horsemen are represented there. A family that has been fighting for eons has one final confrontation before they rest over the ashes of the defeated. They crave the last battle and the spoils of victory. They have built a hard home, and one must dwell within. Next we have the Hanged Man. Here no men hang, but something has been suspended indeed. Time, natural laws, and earthly attachments? They bring themselves here to the game at the gallows. What do they wager to lose? Next card drawn is the Eight of Cups. And it took me to realize who that was in the picture, but it is apparently Roma, the daughter of Merlin. Someone's heart has been left empty. She has been wanting for something more. Will she turn away? Will she be turned away? A woman like this keeps her cup close. And finally, the Ten of Swords. Here it is then, my light in the darkness, something I have long desired flickers just out of my reach. But for the ones who hold the blades, a great match lights the darkness indeed. We then get a note from the Hellion, from the former Hellion of Emma Frost's Hellions, not Mr. Sinister's Hellions. Kara. Does this fortune belong to you? A reading from Marie-Ange Colbert, mutant name Kara. I drew a very strange reading of the cards last night. It is clearly très important, because I pulled it more than once. When I saw it the first time, I had more questions, so I shuffled the tarot and asked the cards again, what was the message? Could they tell me more? And when I dealt the cards, they did not tell me more. Instead, they dealt themselves again, the same 5 cards as the reading had before in the same order, one after another. I shuffled the deck and dealt 5 again, asking for more guidance, but the cards would give no more. This message of 5 cards was all they had for me. In exhaustion, I called my cousin in Lion, another expert in the cards, but not mutant like us, and he said the strangest thing. That he had pulled the very same cards that night. And so had his landlady's wife, another unexpected but welcome expert in the arcane. The cards are often stubborn, and it is not anything surprising to have to ask them the same question more than once. But to make myself clear, this is as likely as pulling the same hand of poker thrice in a row and then finding your cousin did the same. The message in the cards is clearly quite important for someone. I just hope it reaches them. Here were the cards pulled. Perhaps this means something to you. Judgment. It is not a judgment in the way we think of it, but in the way the priests taught it in my youth. Final judgment and the rebirth of all in heaven. It typically means spiritual growth, but I think it is funny. Rebirth is surely a gift of Krakoa, yes? Four of Wands. This is a good card, yes. It can mean you have finished something or are returning to something. Un pas. Four can be a good number for this sort of thing. 4 walls make a house, no? D'autre pas. The Zorn brothers would consider 4 quite an inauspicious number, so it varies. The Hanged Man. Well, you know how he got that way. He is hanging because he is sacrificing himself. Sometimes this one means you have to, what is the phrase? Kill your sweethearts, or something. These latter cards are less pleasant, it seems. 8 of Cups. Ah, a sad card. In my deck, the cups are all overturned here in the picture. The person this reading is for, something is missing in their life. They must walk away, or perhaps they already have. This is a wound. The 10 of Swords. Sometimes the darkest hour is before the dawn, yes, but also, sometimes it is simply darkness. I cannot be sure. In any case, what is causing you pain? The pain will be the worst you have ever felt, but then it will be gone. You will feel it no more. So getting back to the actual story of the issue. On Krakoa, at the external gate, a group of X-Men are waiting. Rockslide, looks like Prestige. I'm not sure who the other one is. When a creature comes through the external gate, being ridden by Summoner, Apocalypse's grandson, who carries with him Banshee. And Summoner claims that Banshee's dying. And so they bring Banshee to the Healing Gardens, and Apocalypse asks his grandson what happened, and Summoner explains they were ambushed in another world on the way to Araco. There's an army on the march. There's a war underway. And so Apocalypse has Summoner come with him, and they go before the Quiet Council. Magneto is not that pleased with the fact that Apocalypse has kind of just been doing his own thing, regardless of what's said, of if it's okay or not. But it turns out that the external gate is totally fine. Krakoa itself is totally fine with the external gate. But Apocalypse explains the history of Krakoa and Araco. How they were once one land split by the Twilight Blade. And then Summoner explains what happened, how Unis was taken prisoner by the forces they fought against. Banshee was injured, and Summoner returned to Krakoa. Solutions are brought up with Shaw saying, "Okay, why don't we just shut the damn gate?" Storm, however, feels that they can't ignore it. Jean offers to let Scott know, and Scott can lead a rescue mission for Unis. However, Apocalypse refuses to say that he will go. Though Sinister thinks that's just great because, well, Apocalypse goes through the gate and they shut the gate behind him. Apparently after a mundane start, the meeting is really picking up. However, Exodus feels that there's something looming, just beyond their ability to see. And whatever it is, he can't see it, but he can feel it. As can Nightcrawler, who brings up the fact that they appear to be gathering enemies at a fever pace. Hominis Verendi, the Flower Cartel, Xeno, Orcus. And Apocalypse explains a few other things about the external gate. It remains open at all times, like all other gates. However, Krakoa does not have full control over it. And Apocalypse is beginning to suspect that access is not limited to mutants. So Emma suggests they destroy the gate, now. Magneto agrees. Shaw suggests they vote on the matter. It appears to be unanimous. However, Krakoa disagrees, saying that the external gate must stay open. speaking, well, Doug, sorry for translating. You need to understand, you are guests here. Our coexistence is collaborative and wonderful. It is a union of shared interests. But I am the land, and the land is mine. And Xavier asked that Cypher apologize for speaking of Krakoa in that manner. And they respect any decision Krakoa makes. And what it boils down to is Krakoa saying, unless there's a greater known threat, the gate stays open. And it's then explained to Apocalypse that whatever he's going to do, he does without the authority of the Council and without their blessing. And so he asks for volunteers. Polaris, Havoc, Richter, Siren, Summoner, Rockslide, Beast, and Archangel. And M. Monet St. Croix. So, they go through. We also get a brief listing of the various kingdoms of the Otherworld. In the Healing Gardens, Cable and Prestige try to probe Banshee's mind to see what happened. Archangel and Apocalypse have some harsh word. Archangel has harsh words for Apocalypse, whereas Apocalypse is just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And Archangel asks Apocalypse if there's anything Apocalypse has done that he regrets. As they arrive in Otherworld, they see Unis and the first four. Apocalypse sheds a tear and says that this he regrets. Explaining that the first four horsemen are his children. Back with Prestige and Cable, it seems they're beginning to get an idea of what happened. Apocalypse is greeted by his children, and they begin catching up. And Apocalypse is promptly run through by one of them, as well as Summoner. Around the same time, it's revealed that Summoner betrayed Banshee and Unis. And Saturnine manages to get in contact with Rachel telepathically. And then, after having planted the seeds in Rachel's mind of what Rachel should be looking for, Saturnine goes to address the battle raging outside the Crystal Citadel. And Summoner summons his blade and slices Rockslide in two. Cable arrives on the moon at the summer house to tell Jean and Scott what's going on. So Banshee came back from Otherworld and he's hurt bad, And Rachel and him were looking through his memories to find out what happened. And when we did, there was this woman who saw us and showed us something we had to find. And so finally, just take a look. So Jean links Cable and Scott's minds of Cable and Cyclops, and it seems to be some sort of generator. Scott knows not only what it is, but where to find one. In Otherworld, Monet, Alex, and Polaris are holding off the Araco forces and trying to get Saturnine and her forces to join in the fight. Saturnine's like, yeah, I don't think so. Like, no, I don't think I will. So the crystalline citadel is, of course, made of metal. And Polaris, being, well, the mutant mistress of magnetism, yeah, they decided to turn the invitation into a request. And she drags the citadel down. Elsewhere, Cable, Cyclops, and Jean Grey head to the generator. And there isn't a gate yet there right by where in the location the generator is kept in. But Saturnine does end up somewhat joining in the fray. Pausing it to see what happens. However, it turns out the generator needs a rather significant power source to get going. And so, Cable draws his nifty sword, the Light of Galador. Saturnine talks with Death after having transmuted him into a more amusing form. And it's decided that within 3 days' time, the Krakoan and Arakan champions will meet, and they will battle for the fate of Krakoa. Both sides rattle off the names of 10 swords: the Twilight Blade, Mercy, Vermilion, the Red Sword of War, Colony, the Black Bone of Amduat, Seducer, Pog or Pog, Purity, Alluvium, Muramasa. Polaris recites off 10 sword names as well: Muramasa, the Sword of Might, the Starlight Sword, Grasscutter, Godkiller, Warlock, the Soul Sword, the Scarab, the Light of Galador, the Skybreaker. Cable uses the Light of Galador to activate the generator. And it turns out the generator that they're turning on is the generator for the point, or for the peak. Sword's orbital station. We get a notice explaining that apparently the peak is offline, security measures are disabled, engines offline, emergency power is failing. Well, there's a crew size of 6,290. No life forms were detected aboard. 3 weeks ago, all contact with the peak ceased. Power defense grid went offline. Efforts to contact the station have failed, rescue missions have failed, quarantine measures have been enacted, and no one knows what happened. And that is where the issue ends. Yeah, this is a meaty book. Next up, we've got X Factor number 4, Ten of Swords, Chapter 2. I'm not going to go into where we left off in Ten of Swords because we just went over that. Literally. So, on Krakoa, Siren, Beast, and Archangel are making sure that Richter and Apocalypse, both of whom have been injured by plague, make it to the healing gardens. When they return through the external gate, Cecilia Reyes and Prestige are there to meet them, with Prestige putting Apocalypse and Richter on telekinetic stretchers. And then looks like Polaris, Monet, Havoc, and Eunice return, along with a stretcher holding the remains of Rockslide. And then Saturnine opts to close the external gate on the otherworld end, which makes Krakoa a little mad and does cause something of an earthquake. We also get a write-up on the floating kingdom of Roma Regina. And in the healing gardens, both M and Prestige try and look through Polaris's mind to basically recall the names of the swords she rattled off. But there's a psychic block put in there to prevent others from doing just that by Saturnine. But it turns out that Apocalypse and Richter are linked. And he's doing what he can for Richter, but he's just going to let... The idea is they're going to let Richter pass and then resurrect him. And then Apocalypse actually tries to kill Healer until Richter contacts him telepathically. But Richter and Prestige try to contact him telepathically. We also get a write-up on the Holy Republic of Fae, and it's explained that that and the floating kingdom of Roma Regina are formerly were formerly one kingdom until there was a split. And things aren't really going well for the Holy Republic. At the Arbor hatchery, Xavier's working with the Five to explain, hey, we kind of have to do a very quick couple of resurrections here, because, well, it does appear we're at war. When Polaris shows up, basically, since she was there, kind of okay, hey, show them what I saw. And Richter seems to resurrect just fine. However, Rockslide something goes very wrong with trying to bring back Rockslide. Xavier and Hope both collapse. All of the cerebral helmets all briefly go offline, and Rockslide collapses, literally falls apart. And the five have also lost their connection, trying to figure out what went wrong. When Polaris realizes that it wasn't Rockslide that came back. And it's explained that Xavier then explains that it both is and is not Rockslide. But it's not their Rockslide. Richter is confirmed to be Richter. Hope has something of a theory that perhaps because Rockslide died in Otherworld, something went wrong with his resurrection protocols, whereas Richter came back just fine. We then get a after-action report following the non-certain resurrection of Rockslide, explaining that for the moment all resurrection protocols are hereby suspended. The Five and Polaris, as well as Rockslide, speak to the Council, and it seems like it does, everything does seem to point to, because of the whole involvement in Otherworld, that's what went wrong. And so dying in Otherworld is a final death. And Magneto asked Polaris about the various clues she was given by Saturnine, and she hasn't really deciphered them yet. Then she goes into a trance and says the following: "As above, so below. From one womb came two. A hero destined to brandish what the earth hath swallowed, and an echo doomed to yearn for what the stars hath forsworn. Lost soul, an edge gained, a lone wanderer returns to a forge left ablaze. Sword in the stone, stationed in space, a young man born old pilots a place. Father forsaken, a husband betrayed, an ancient treasure sharpens the death his children crave. Friends self, friends lost. Out of one comes many, into many comes one. 8 years gone in seconds. From a childhood lost comes a woman grown. Her only friends were weapons, now her soul a blade, hers alone. Once goddess, once queen, one sword with which to split the sky in twain, vibranium inlaid as tempests contained, she is the wrath of heavens wielding a legacy. Ego, death, and broken stone, 2 wars waged by one champion alone." And so Polaris runs off, and there's another after-action report basically going into the whole thing that, one, yes, it does matter. Where someone dies appears to be the big deal. Xavier and Magneto speak with Apocalypse, basically saying, for the moment, resurrection protocols are offline, so if you do succumb to your wounds here, it might be a minute before, you get resurrected. And we also don't think anyone will miss you. Meanwhile, Polaris has made something on the ground. It turns out she did this with the remains of Rockslide, and it's to be known as the Sanctus Sacrum, the Sacred Sacrifice. But she made this using the instructions left in her mind by Saturnine, which did call for a ritual sacrifice. Then magic shows up, sticks the tip of the soul sword one of the points, and it lights up. Then Cypher's gone. Man, Cypher and members of the Quiet Council have gone over what all was said by Polaris, and somewhat deciphered some of it. 8 years, gone in seconds. From her childhood loss comes a creature grown. A young girl's friends uses weapons honed a woman's soul into a blade of her own. Giannis and the snatches went up pretty quick. Which Cypher guessed she would, because she made a really pissed off face when she heard it. A beacon slices darkness, stationed in space. A young man, born old, pilots the place. Cypher's first thought is, space, young man, born old. Maybe we should ask Cable about this. Then we get friends self, friends lost. Out of one comes many, into many comes one. Cypher explains he only knows one person who talks like that, and if that person has to go, well, he's going with them. However, Warlock can turn himself into a sword, and Cypher can't. So maybe it's more like Warlock's coming with him. Doesn't know what the second part's about, though. Part of me kind of wants to think that maybe it has something to do with Multiple Man, but I don't think that's the case. Next up, once goddess, once queen, one sword with which to split the sky in twain. By ready men laid, a tempest contained. The wrath of heavens comes wielding a legacy. Storm. And Cypher says it's kind of pretty, and Storm should have it cross-stitched for her house. He kind of wishes his was like that. Next up, lost soul and edge gained. A lone wanderer returns to a forge left ablaze. At first, apparently this one stumped Cypher, but Wolverine seems to be sure that the Muramasa blade is the one to factor in here, and he's taking care of it. And, well, lone wanderer, that is kind of Wolverine. As above, so below. From one womb came two. A hero destined to brandish what the earth hath swallowed, and an echo doomed to yearn for what the stars hath forsworn. Cypher's not sure he's got anything special about this one, but it seems like the Braddock twins. However, Brian Braddock isn't a mutant. He's also not sure which one is in it. So, ego, death, and broken stone. 2 wars waged by one champion alone. Gorgon showed up pretty quickly when he heard we were talking swords, and he's positive this one was for him. Someone else will talk about it if they want. A father forsaken, a husband betrayed. An ancient treasure sharpens the death his children crave. Apocalypse claimed that one, claiming he's known from the beginning that he's going in, and he's left apparently to collect his sword. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final X-Book of the week. Giant-Sized X-Men, #1, tribute to Wein and Cockrum. Simply put, this is a tribute version of Giant-Sized X-Men, which introduced the all-new, all-different X-Men lineup. Each page is drawn by a different artist. For example, we got this amazing Ross shot for the first page. But, so, this is actually the first time I've ever actually read Giant-Sized X-Men. So it begins with Nightcrawler on the run from a mob in Germany, Windeldorf to be exact. He's rescued by Xavier, who asks Nightcrawler to come with him. Then in Canada, Xavier recruits Wolverine, who quits his government job to go sign on with the X-Men. In Kenya, Xavier recruits Storm, Japan, he recruits Sunfire. Siberia, he recruits Colossus. In Camp Verde, Arizona, he recruits John Proudstar, who would later become the X-Men known as Thunderbird. Once they've got their costumes all put together, Cyclops arrives, and explains what happened with the team. They arrived on Krakoa, and something defeated them and left Scott alive, and also healed his eyes. Sunfire, however, doesn't really give a shit, so he opts to leave. The rest of the X-Men get into Blackbird, but Sunfire followed, and so, yeah. Cyclops splits the group up into a multitude of teams. You have two-man teams, Storm and Colossus, Banshee and Wolverine, Sunfire and Nightcrawler, and Thunderbird and Cyclops. Cyclops lands the jet, and however they forgot the mini Threebird device inside. They turn around, and the jet's gone. And the Vines attack Cyclops and Thunderbird. They fight back. Then Colossus and Storm happen upon Cyclops and Thunderbird. Wolverine and Banshee deal with some creatures from the sea before also coming upon the rest of their allies, while Sunfire and Nightcrawler do the same, and again also come upon the rest of the X-Men. They all then go into the temple that's been discovered, and deep within are the other X-Men, seemingly being fed upon by something. And then Krakoa rises, and so we get the big fight against the island. The revelation that Krakoa literally basically sent back Cyclops just to bring more mutants for it to eat. And seemingly Krakoa is destroyed. And as the issue ends, the Blackbird is raised from the ocean, and as they get inside, it's mentioned that there's apparently not enough seats for everyone. And Angel then asks, what are we going to do with 13 X-Men? Turns out what would happen is that 4 of those 13, well actually 5 of those 13 would leave. Some to join another team, some to just go back home. But yeah, anyway. That's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.